Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. I am Jumalia Rundato Adiong. So today we will be discussing the plants, its nature and structure, factors affecting plants' growth. So what is plant? Ano nga ba yung tinatawag nating plant or halaman? Plants are living organisms which are part of kingdom Plantae. Plants are usually found outside growing freely in nature. Plants get the majority of their energy from sunlight. This process called a photosynthesis. So, pag sinabi nating plants or halaman, they are also a living organism, meaning mayroon din silang buhay, which are part of the kingdom of Plantae. So, plants are usually found outside, growing freely in nature. So, madalas nating nakikita or nahahanap yung mga plants sa labas. Sa labas kung saan tumutubo sila in the nature. Then, plants gets majority of their energy from sunlight. So, majority of the plants ay kumukuha sila ng energy from the sunlight. Sa sikat ng araw sila kumukuha ng energy. So, ang tawag naman sa process na yon is photosynthesis. Yun yung tinatawag natin na photosynthesis. Another one is, remember that all plants make their own foods, right? Then, taking energy from sunlight. So, unlike the animals, hindi tulad ng mga animals na yung animals, gumagawa sila ng paraan to make foods. Pumupunta sila sa iba't ibang lugar just to find foods. Then, sa plants cannot move from place to place because most are rooted in the ground. So, plants also plays a critical role in how we experience our environment. They create calming green spaces, provide oxygen in order for us to breathe and nourish our senses. So, napakahalaga ng plants kung ating itong plants na ito ay napakahalaga sa ating mga tao because aside from provide vegetables and fruits, or it gives us fruits, or it gives us foods. uh, Plants also help us to breathe. It provide us oxygen for us to breathe. And then remember also that all plants are autotrophs. At autotrophs meaning they make their own foods. They are also called producer because they produce foods. Then all plants are eukaryotes or eukaryotes, meaning uh, all living organisms consisting of cell. Uh, all plants are eukaryotes, meaning an organism consisting of a cell. Then all plants are multicellular. All plants are multicellular. All plants are surrounded by a cell wall. All plants cells contain green chloroplast, which contain green chlorophyll. Then green chlorophyll changes carbon dioxide, water, and the energy in sunlight into food for the plant. Then to be a plant, so para maging halaman or para maging plants daw, yung dahon ng plants, kailangan meron siyang tinatawag na chlorophyll. Pag sinabi naman natin chlorophyll, this is what makes the green color in absorb light from the sun for photosynthesis. So chlorophyll gives color, green color to the leaves or the plants. Then next, the nature and structures of plants. So plants, also called green plants, are living things that grow on land or in water. From snowy mountain slopes to dry, hot deserts, plants can survive almost anywhere on Earth. So plants, yung halaman, also called green plants. Kaya tinawag na green plants yung halaman because most of the plants ay kulay green, right? Then living things din sila dahil may buhay din sila. It can also grow. Plants also grow on land. So, tumutubo din yung halaman sa lupa. Tumutubo yung halaman sa lupa or even sa water. From snowy mountain slope dry, even sa hot desert, plants can survive. So, nakakasurvive daw yung plants kahit saan sa earth. Then, plants can be divided into two groups. Flowering plants and non-flowering plants. So ano nga ba yung mga flowering plants? So from the word flowering, it means they have flowers. For examples of flowering plants are sunflower, orchids, and most types of trees. Then the other group is non-flowering plants, meaning yan naman yung mga plants na hindi nagbubulaklak or walang flowers, hindi sila flowers. So those are this includes the mosses and ferns. The next, how does a plant grows? So, do you ever think kung paano nga ba tumutubo yung plants? So, karamihan daw sa mga plants grow from a tiny seed. Tumutubo daw sila from a very tiny seeds. Napakaliit na seed. But how does the tiny seeds grow? So, paano ba yung maliit na seeds na yon tumutubo or lumalaki into the large plant or even in a huge tree? Then, for example, ito yung seed. Then, nilagay natin itong seed sa soil or sa lupa. Then, let's give the seeds some water. So, let's say na nilagyan natin yung seeds na nilagay natin sa soil, nilagyan natin ng tubig. So, kapag yung soil or lupa ay dry or masyadong dry, so do you think tutubo yung seed na tinanim natin? So, kapag yung lupa ay dry, walang sapa or doesn't get enough sunlight, so expected that the seed we planted can't grow. So, hindi siya tutubo or lalaki. Then, uh, kailangan, yung seed na tinanim natin, it needs to get the right amount of water. So, kailangan ng sapat na tubig at sunlight for start to sprout. It needs more water and sunlight and nutritions for it to keep growing. So, tulad din sa tao, we as a human need also a nutrients from food and water for us to stay healthy and grow. So, yan din yung mga kailangan ng isang plant to grow. Okay, so next, let's talk about the phases of plants. Plants have different phases of growth and need different amounts of light in each phase. So in every phase, they may require different kinds of nutrients to grow and thrive. Now, the stages of plant growth exist to help growers classify these plants and provide appropriate nutrients at the right time. So roughly, a plant goes through the following plant growth stages. So number 1, germination. So this stage is where the seed germinates and turns into a sprout. When water enters the seed, it activates the enzymes present inside it. So dito naman sa germination, dito na nagsa-start yung seed mag-germinate at mag-germinate and turns into a sprout. Then when water, kapag yung tubig pumasok na sa seed, it activates the enzyme present inside. It activates the enzymes present inside. So, this is where the life cycle of the plants begins. So, dito daw nagsisimula yung life cycle ng plants dito sa germination. And then, next, we have the seedling. Seedling, as plants' roots are developed to reach the water underground, it gains all nutrients it needs to grow and eventually turns into a thriving plant. So, dito naman sa seedling, typically, the blue light is affected during this stage of the plant growth. So, pag sinabi nating blue light, this encourages the growth in the vegetative stage of the plant. Sa seedling, kapag yung plants roots or yung ugat ng halaman ay na-develop na to reach the water underground, it gets all nutrients. So, nakukuha niya yung mga nutrients na kailangan to grow. Then, number 3, the vegetative. Plants have a need for high amounts of nitrogen, which offer them resources for new cells. So, dito naman sa stage na ito, which is the vegetative, this stage can last for a few days or a couple of weeks or even months, depending on the kind of plants you choose to grow. Depende sa plants na pinili mo, tinanim mo. Then, for example, is yung tomato. So, typically, a duration of 2 weeks or 14 days. The number 4 is the bud formation, also known as budding. This stage is when the buds start to form. It may be important to add budding's specific fertilizers during this stage to provide your plant with appropriate nutrients. So, dito naman sa bud formation, or known as budding. So, dito na nagsa-start yung bud start to form. So, during the fruiting stage of the plant, phosphorus is transported to the fruiting parts to make up for the high energy requirements. Then number 5 is flowering. So, during this stage, the plant develops flowers. Flowers are During this stage, number 5 is flowering. During this stage, the plant develop flowers and fruits or vegetables. So finally, the flowering stage. Ito naman yung nag-start na siya mag-flowering. Flowering stage is which is called the blooming or fruiting stage arrive. So dito na blooming. Tinatawag nilang blooming kasi magandang tingnan kasi namumulaklak na siya. So red light is required by plants in this stage to aid with stem growth and height of the plant. So required na dito yung red light. Pag sinabi nating red light, it encourages blooming in the plant. So, nagbibigay siya ng blooming sa plants. Then, last is the maturity. Maturity, as fruit vegetables grow ripe, the plant no longer requires the nutrients. So, pag yung plants or fruits or vegetable, nag-start na siyang bumunga, hindi na kailangan, hindi na siya required hindi na niya kailangan ng nutrients. Because, for instance, this is when a tomato turns from small and grain to a juicy and ripe tomato. Or halimbawa yung tomato, hilaw, let's say yung mangga. Yung mangga, start ka with a small, maliit na hilaw na mangga hanggang sa naging yellow na siya. So at this stage, the plant no longer requires the nutrients. Then proceed naman tayo sa parts of the plants. So, as you can see, this is the flower. Proceed naman sa parts of plants. This is the flower, the shoot tip, the petiole, the leaf, the lateral shoot, the lateral bud, the stem. Stem yan yung body of the plant. And then the root system, yung ugat. I know that most of us are familiar with this. And then let's proceed naman to the factors affecting plants' growth. So it is important to learn as much as you can about these 4 factors that I'm going to discuss so that you can plant your garden accordingly to achieve a lush and healthy garden. You may be wondering where soil fits into the list. Plants are capable of growing without soil using a method known as hydroponics. However, plants cannot grow if they are not given a proper nutrients. So tulad sa tao, we as a human also need a proper nutrients in order to survive. Then let's take a look at each other of the 4 things that can affect the plant growth. Okay, so number 1, the light. Light. Plants have evolved throughout time in different locations throughout the world. Some plants develop in tropical locations under the canopy of large trees, while others develop on slopes of harsh mountain ranges. Plants have adapted to different types of light. There are some plants that cannot adapt easily to a new condition. It is important to understand the type of light that your plants need and then provide it for them if you want them to grow. Of course, light is very important in plant. Then, so pagdating din sa pagtatanim ng halaman, we should know that we should understand what type of a light that our plant needs. Then, from season to season, light varies in intensity. In the winter, so sa winter, the days are much shorter and therefore, there is less light. Siyempre, sa winter, expected na talaga na less light. So, during naman sa, pag-spring. So, sa pag-spring, the amount of light that is available start to increase as does the intensity. The light and the temperature changes that come in the spring will stimulate plants to break dormancy and start to grow new leaves. Sunlight is available during the summer month, well, encourages fruiting and flowering. Of course, sa tuwing summer, expected na natin na maaraw. So during the full month, when the light starts to change again, so maraming plants na will begin shading their leaves. Then when purchasing plants, so it is important to make sure that you have an area in mind to plant them so that they get the amount of sunlight that they require each day. Of course, kapag halimbawa din magbibenta ka ng halaman or plants, make sure na mayroon kang area or proper setting para sa para sa plants mo. Then make sure then na yung area na napili mo ay may sapat na sunlight na makaka-provide sa kanila every day for them to survive and for them to stay, for them to have a healthy growing. And then number 2 is water. In order to survive, plants have to have a water. Most plants are made up of 90% water. Without the appropriate amounts of water, plants will be stressed and eventually die. Even plants that live in the desert, such as cactus, need water. They just need less of it than other types of plants. Of course, water give water is very important for the plants. Also, we as a human, because most of the plants daw 90% made up of 90% waters. So, napaka-importante ng water. So, kapag daw walang sapat na amount of water, the plant will be stressed and die. Water provide plants nourishment and hydration. Water provide plants nourishment and hydration. So water that in the soil will break down minerals and other elements of the soil. So kapag daw yung plants na-absorb niya yung water sa pamamagitan ng roots or ugat ng isang halaman, they will also be picking up nutrients that will travel to the cells of the plant. So the moment na na-absorb na ng water through roots, then nakakakuha din yung plants ng nutrients na pumapasok sa cells ng plants. Humidity and water in the air can help encourage plant growth. However, providing too much water can also cause plants to die. Siyempre, kapag daw sumobra naman yung kapag sumobra naman yung pag-provide natin ng water sa plants natin, it may cause to plants to die. So, pwede din yan makasira sa plants natin kapag sumobra. So, dapat exact lang or make sure that the amount of water we provide is enough. So it is important that you look up information about how much water your plant needs. Yes. And kailangan talaga alamin natin kung gaano ba kalaki or ano nga ba yung sapat na tubig na ilalagay natin sa plants natin. And then be sure to provide them with this amount in order to promote healthy growth. Then water is the essential factors for plants. Not only plants, but also all living things. They grow well in sufficient amount of water. They even respond to the scarcity of water. Then how does water affect also the how does water affect the plant's growth? Water is food for the plants, remember. The only food of the plants is the water and also the sunlight. And it is used by the plant as a medium to carry nutrients from the soil. It helps the plant to convert starch into sugar. Then excess water and deficiency of water are both harm. Excess water, kapag yung sobra naman yung water and deficiency or kakulangan sa tubig, lahat yan ay harmful to the plant, of course. Kaya nga sabi natin kanina, kailangan we should look information on how much water your plant needs. Because kapag sumobra yung water, it can lead the roots rot and kill the plant, while its deficiency, kapag kulang naman sa tubig, it can prevent the growth. So kapag kulang naman sa tubig, hindi tutubo ng maayos yung tinanim nating halaman. Okay, so number 3, the temperature. Weather and temperature plays an important role in plants' growth. Plants will slow down or speed up their growth rate based on the temperature. Warm temperature encourage growth and germination. A warmer temperature will actually trigger a chemical reaction inside the cells of a plant, and this will speed up respiration, transpiration, and the photosynthesis process. Of course, this temperature or the weather plays a big role in plants' growth. Mabilis daw lumalaki or tumutubo ng mabilis yung plants sa tuwing tag-init. And then, bumabagal naman yung pag-grow ng isang plant sa tuwing taglamig. Then, growth is accelerated with the increase in temperature. So, kapag naman nag-increase yung temperature, so it may decrease. So, mababawasan yung pollen production, which in turn leads to reproduce fruits and seed. and other undesirable outcomes. So additionally, high temperatures can cause heat damage to the plant. So kapag masyadong mataas yung temperature, let's say masyadong mainit or tag-init, so may madadamage yung plants natin. So mostly na nangyayari in this case, kapag masyadong mainit, nasusunog yung dahon ng mga halaman, even the roots and other parts of the plants. This is why it is important to adjust the temperature of your growing plants. So let's say halimbawa kung ikaw ay may binibentang halaman, or let's say nag-alaga ka ng halaman, you should observe or adjust the temperature. Hindi naman siya actually ma-adjust yung temperature, but you as a grower, kailangan yung place na nilagyan mo ng plants na tinaniman mo, check for a proper air circulation. The next, number 4, the nutrients. These are the certain nutrients that plants need in order to grow. Carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen are 3 of the nutrients that the plants need. They get this from water and from air. The other nutrients that the plants lack in any nutrient, plant growth can be stunted. So, these nutrients naman, ito naman yung basically or needs ng plants in order to grow. So, mostly daw is na-need ng plants to grow is the carbon dioxide, the oxygen, and the hydrogen. But nutrients also, there are 2 categories of soil nutrients needed to improve plant growth. First is the micronutrients, and second is the macronutrients. Yung mga macronutrients naman, plants need more these nutrients. The macronutrients that plants need includes the phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, sulfur, calcium, and nitrogen. While micronutrients that plants need as well include the iron, copper, as well as the several other elements. So, fertilizer for nutrients. So, ano naman yung fertilizer for nutrients? So, one of the problems that gardeners often face is that they use for their garden has an imbalanced nutrients. And pinoproblema ng mga gardeners is that the gardeners often face is they use for their garden imbalance yung nutrients. And then one of the best ways to ensure the proper plant growth is to using natural compost or manure in the soil. Kasi nakakadagdag din ito for those missing nutrients na wala to the soil or sa lupa, as well as nakakapag-provide din sila ng mga new nutrients sa halaman. So, kapag daw meron kang halaman na, let's say that are disease or may sakit na halaman, it is likely that they are missing micro or macronutrients. So, kapag ganun na sa tingin mo yung halaman mo nalalanta na or may sakit na, so it means daw kulang sila sa micro and macronutrients. For example, blossom rot that is found on tomato plant is often caused by a lack of calcium. So just like people, we also as a human need a proper nutrients. Plants do not have a healthy diet of the nutrients they need will be affected and less likely produce desired result. So in conclusion, so if you want to have a healthy garden, or let's say kung gusto mo magkaroon ng malusog na garden or maayos na garden, you could spend months researching all of the plant growth factors. Of course, you should be a researcher to your plant. However, yung pinaka-importante na dapat natin tandaan na kapag tayo ay magpa-practice na gardening techniques, we are going to produce we are going to produce a healthy plants. Make sure that you rotate your crops regularly, and that you add compost and manure to your soil in at least once or twice a year to provide your plants with the nutrients they need in order to survive. So I think that would be all. I hope you learned something about my report. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.